Alright, so welcome back to the channel. It's been a busy month. I've been over in New York and over in Istanbul too, both for a mix of travel and some client work as well. So while I was traveling, I thought it would be a good idea to put together an episode where I go through the gear I use both for my client work and for my personal work too. Alright, so first up is the Fujifilm X-T5. Now this is the camera I've used the most over the last couple of years, and despite some of my criticisms regarding the build quality when it came out, I've had absolutely no issues with this camera. I've taken it on numerous trips abroad, I've used it consistently here in London for street photography, and I've also done quite a lot of client work both here in London and abroad with it too. So it's been really consistent, really reliable, and I've been really happy with both the photos and the videos I've been able to capture with it. At this point, I probably wouldn't recommend buying the X-T5 simply because the X-T6 is on the horizon. It will probably be announced over the next month or two. The next up, and this is the newest addition to my camera kit, is the Leica MP. So over the last 24 months, I've been getting more and more into film photography. However, there aren't many camera manufacturers still making film cameras, so the options are limited. Now initially, I was looking at cameras like the Contax T2 or the G series, but those cameras easily cost over £1,000, and if you run into any issues, there's a good chance you won't be able to repair them. They all have old electronics inside them, and one day inevitably those electronics are going to fail. And because the manufacturers no longer make the cameras, the parts needed to repair them are becoming shorter and shorter in supply as time goes on. Whereas Leica to this day are still making 35mm cameras, and they all come with warranty. If you run into any issues, there are a ton of places to get them repaired. Next up, and this is the second 35mm film camera in my kit, is the Yashica T4. Now I managed to pick this up for a pretty good price online. As I mentioned earlier, the electronics inside these cameras are pretty old at this point, so there is a chance any day this camera could break, and there wouldn't really be much I could do about it. But that aside, I really enjoy using this camera. If I'm just walking around the neighborhood and I want to take a camera with me and I want to shoot film, this is the camera I take with me. So next up, it's the Ricoh GR4. Previously, I was using the GR3X, then I moved on to the 4, and honestly, after using both versions, I think I prefer the wider angle of the GR4 to the 3X. Obviously, you can still get the 3, which has that same wider angle lens. I don't think it's a massive upgrade over the GR3. If you already have the GR3, I probably wouldn't recommend upgrading to the GR4. There really isn't that many improvements to the camera overall, and the image quality is pretty similar despite the 4 having a slightly improved sensor. So next up, it's the Fujifilm X100 and this is probably the camera I've used the most after my X-T5. And I feel like it's been a great option both for street photography here in London and also for travel photography and also for video. I feel like its video capabilities are a bit underrated. This camera has an internal ND filter, so when you're recording video, even on a bright summer's day like today, you can still capture it with the correct exposure and the correct shutter speed. I also picked up this square hood attachment for the front, which I feel like complements the rest of the camera really well. So the final camera I'm going to talk about is this Fujifilm XH2S. Now I only use this camera for video. I know it is a great option for things like sports photography and wildlife photography because of the fast sensor inside, but as I don't really do that kind of stuff, I pretty much only use this camera for client work and for recording videos like this. Now, on the video front, I feel like it is a step above the X-T5. I've been really happy with what I've been able to capture with this camera, and I actually think it stacks up pretty well against the competition. With that said, there are things about this camera which make it annoying to use compared to say an FX3, and if anything, it just makes me really wish Fujifilm would make a small form factor video camera. So a piece of gear I picked up over the past year is this gimbal, which is the Zhiyun Weebill 3E, and I mostly use this for my client work both here in London and while I travel. Now while I was planning this episode, I reached out to Zhiyun and they agreed to sponsor this episode. They also sent me a light, which I'm going to speak about in a bit more detail later. Now I remember a couple of years ago when I first got into photography, I picked up a gimbal and I traveled to Japan with it, and I found the whole experience to be a nightmare. They were large, they were heavy, and balancing your camera on them was annoying. Fast forward a couple years and things have changed a lot. Now usually when I'm shooting videos for my own YouTube or personal work, I just shoot handheld or I use a tripod. However, when it comes to client work, I found that gimbals are really useful. Now often when I'm doing client work, they usually ask me to record scenes which involve movement or me tracking a subject. Now for those types of shots, it's near impossible to do them without having some sort of stabilization, and also it doesn't matter how good your video footage is and how high quality it is. If it's shaking all over the place, it's going to be unusable. And secondly, if you're on set, if your client asks you to review the footage and you show them footage which is shaking all over the place, it never looks great, and sometimes it's difficult to explain how much of the shake and the jitters you can get out in post. Now this Weebill 3E strikes a really good balance for me because one, it's really easy to travel with, two, it's light, so if I'm shooting all day, it's not too tiring. There's also a wrist attachment you can get which makes it even easier to carry. And finally, it can comfortably hold my XH2S or XT5 setup. The final thing I'm going to say about this gimbal is while there are larger ones and ones which have more functions, this one comes in at about £200, which I think is great value. I think it matches up with Fujifilm cameras really well because of their size and weight. And overall, I feel like this just unlocks a lot of creative possibilities. The second piece of gear I'm going to talk about, and this is the one Zhiyun sent me directly for this episode, is the Molus X100RGB. I've been experimenting with lots of small portable lights over the past year, and while there are lots of good options, I haven't seen one which is this powerful and this versatile. For me, I feel like I'm going to be using this light quite a bit while I'm traveling, both for my personal stuff, so filming episodes like this to film myself, and also for client work on the go as well. So you have the option to either plug this straight into the mains or use the detachable rechargeable battery. I feel like the accessories and how you attach them to the light has also been really well thought out. So there is a magnetic mounting system and also a quick release function, a bit like how you attach a lens to a camera. And with these, it's really easy to swap modifiers or reflectors, change the direction of light, or attach a softbox. Now, I've talked about this lens a lot on this channel already. I feel like it's one of the most useful lenses on the Fujifilm system. It's been the lens I've used the most over the past year. I feel like the quality throughout from the 18 to 50 is pretty good. Is it as good as the primes? No, but honestly, you're going to capture more shots, more interesting shots, different types of shots with this lens compared to having just one prime on you all the time. There are times where primes make more sense, and there are times where I use primes, but especially when I'm traveling, I tend to use this 18 to 50 more. Now when it comes to the primes I use, it's mostly between the 35 1.4 and the 56 1.2. The 35 1.4 is my favorite Fujifilm prime lens. I love the shots I get with it, I love how it looks, I love how it feels. It's really light, it's small. Even when I compare it to Fujifilm's newer lenses like the 33 1.4, I still go back to the 35 1.4. So finally, it's the 56 1.2, which I believe is Fujifilm's best lens in terms of image quality. Now, I had the old version prior to this one, which is the weather resistant version, and I actually think I prefer the old version to the new one. That's simply because of the size and weight of it. For some reason, all of Fujifilm's newer lenses are both heavier and larger, and it's getting to a point where they're pretty much on par with the full frame competition. So primes coming from Sony aren't too much larger and heavier than the ones coming from Fujifilm, even though the Fujifilm has a smaller sensor. But the new version is weather resistant. It does have a closer minimum focusing distance and also faster autofocus. The final lens I have, and I don't currently have it on me, is the Sigma 17-40. Now this lens, at this point, I pretty much only use for client work. I feel for street photography, it's a bit too large and heavy. It is a great lens. I feel like the image quality is better than what I'm getting on the 18-50 Sigma, but just the size and weight of it just makes me not want to use it so much when it comes to street photography. But for client work, it's been a great option. Anyway, that is my current setup for my client and personal work. There are lenses and cameras I use now and again, but these are the ones I use on a consistent basis. So yeah, if you have any questions about any of these, drop them in the comments below. I will make sure to get back to you. If you want to pick up any of the gear I've spoken about in this episode, I have links to all of them in the description below as well. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.